their awards, their scope of writing and scientific research on a lot of this stuff, as well as just practical application.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do that one, and I also wanted to take the environmental approach to gardening. That's going to be a little bit later this morning also. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
there's a wide variety there for folks to choose from.
Yeah, and tickets are still available. We do
Yes.
start at we started at 8:45 is when everybody got in, but the events don't really start until a little bit later on. But we have had some weather, haven't we?
Oh my goodness, if we have been having some weather. You know, it just the old Murphy's Law. It's going to happen if it's going to happen. It's been absolutely gorgeous. And then this morning, look, the windows are wet.
Got used to it. I had been protecting my artichokes from possible frost and from rain, and last night I didn't even bother putting the cover on it, the hotbed cover that I've been protecting it with, and kind of regretting it.
Actually, you were probably pretty much okay because our overnight temperatures, when you get the cloud layer comes in,
it's a nice blanket.
creates like a inversion layer that holds the ground temperature better, and so it's not as necessary to use it if it was a clear, crisp night when everything goes frosty on us.
Yeah.
So I think you were probably okay, but
Yeah, I'm looking at the past weather that we've had since the beginning of March. March 1 and 2, March 2nd it rained and we got 0.02% or inches of rain.
I know.
0.02 inches of rain.
We've been setting all kinds of records for lack of moisture, which is unusual for the Northwest.
Well, it's really weird because every day the average rainfall is at least 0.1, 0.13 inches, and we have 0 inches every day this month except for 2. And yesterday we got 0.16 inch, or Wednesday we got 0.16 inches.
Yeah.
So nothing, 0.
Right, and now over this weekend, they're saying that we could get like 2 inches or better.
I will be interested to see that, because what they are also saying is we're going to get that here and we'll get to that at the coastals, but nowhere further east, like except for the high tip peaks of the mountains, are they going to get any dustings or snows or anything like that.
Exactly, and I know that it's very strange with weather patterns how they follow the mountains and the rivers as opposed to the valley area, and the foothills, but they can come across the sky over McMinnville. And we will be sunny at my house and having a deluge at Safeway or over at the OSU office or something another, or snowing in the mountain. And it's just, you never know where it's going to hit.
No, it's really weird. So today we're looking at a high of 57. Wow.
Yeah.
My gosh. Okay, so 57 high.
53 tomorrow.
And rain tonight.
Yeah.
And rain tomorrow at 53. Yeah, this is the botrytis. If you sprayed your fruit sprays the way you were supposed to, then you should be okay. Right. You're reaping the benefits of pre-planting and taking care of all those things. But like I said, my artichoke, really concerned about that. But I haven't been watering like I should be. Like I haven't turned the automatic water or sprinklers on. Have you done any of that?
No, mine are not on yet. I knew that there was still at this time of year a possibility of a freeze, but I think we're kind of past that now. So it's going to be one of the chores this week to get that misting system going.
Right, we've got until the middle of May for that last chance of freeze, so it's always going to be the possibility. But I don't know. If you can say in my bones, I feel like in my bones we're not going to have the deluge of rain, of frost, of freezing, of all of these things. We might get 1 or 2, chances of it, but that's just me. That's just my guess, and I'm an idiot. So
we've got a little piece of property out of the coast, and so my husband and I checked with NOAA, and for this whole month period, the line was almost flat until it hit this weekend, and it went way up in the air on a spike for water, and then it went flat for the rest of the month. And we're going, okay, time to turn the misters on.
Yeah, because I have been used to, at this point, raining, and then with this week coming up, where it's going to be completely partly cloudy, and then towards the end, we've got a chance of rain, but not really any rain right there. So that's basically the weather right there. You were talking about getting out to your garden because you felt the warmth, and you felt it in your bones also, so you may be over-prepared.
Yes, over prepared is probably putting it mildly. We got the greenhouse set up, and I got out there with all of my soils and everything, and set up a bunch of seed beds, and put my light in there, and put my little portable heater in there. And then we had those nights that were freezing,
Freezing.
frosting,
Yeah.
and everything. And with my small setup, it's not like you're in a commercial thing.
Mm.
And I'm going to have to reseed everything I seeded.
Oh, yeah.
That's sad.
Because what happens is you get the soil temperature that
Yeah.
it needs to be the warmth.
Too much up and down, too much up and down, and they just don't like it. But the good thing that I did is I had a lot of my plants from last year
Mhm.
that I wintered over, like underneath of my RV or garage and things like that, and I brought those out to the greenhouse
Mhm.
and trimmed them up and neatened them up and everything, fertilized them, and they're doing beautifully. They're popping right out there with green
Yeah,
leaves all over the place.
some of those plants are doing really well in my garden. My raspberries have come back, and so they've started greening out, and so we'll go ahead and hope that soon we'll have some nice raspberries. My currants, they're starting to bloom out, and my josta berries, they haven't done anything yet. But these are my weather vanes. These are how I tell that spring is actually coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets scary though. I was downtown. I was at the Capitol in Salem, and they've got the flowering trees. I think they're plums. I don't know what they are, but they're just right in front. Just an acre of white blooms
Oh,
of
yeah.
just tall trees,
Yeah.
and so spring is here. It's, I guess, official next week.
Yeah, I was
Anyway.
just talking to my husband yesterday as we were driving around town doing tours for this event, and I said, it's such a pleasure to see the daffodils and the pinks and the whites and the purples of the cherries and the plums and stuff that are blooming right now, and it just gives you a lift.
I know. It does. It's like, okay, so and I feel like I've been putting the most work into my garden that I have in years, and I'm wanting to do that so that when summer comes around, I don't have to do anything in my garden really. I mean, just pick vegetables or whatever. But this year is I think I've prepared a little bit more, so hopefully it's all going to come to fruition. I still need to lay down some compost, which I was supposed to do in October, but I didn't get around to it. But
Yes.
but
Did you get your slug bait out?
well, no. And that's why I've been
What?
protecting my artichoke. I think the slugs are attacking my artichokes, and I can't find it. I keep bringing up the artichoke. It's my baby right now. It's my
Sure.
pet, my survival. Like, if I can take care of this, I'm a wonderful person.
Okay, time for
And-
the beer trap.
Right. And you're right. That's exactly what I need to do. Is I've put a hotbed around it, so it's like surrounded. Slugs aren't crawling up, but they might be crawling underneath.
Yeah.
And because it's just on sitting on the ground there, and but it's just mushy in there. But beer trap, you're right. I will put a beer trap out to take care of those slugs.
I have to confess,
Yeah.
we keep talking about it, and it hasn't been done at my
See?
house yet either.
Yeah,
It was done once a few weeks ago, but we need to go out and do it again.
All we're doing is talking about some of these
Yes.
things, and and like the fruit spray. I didn't do the fruit spray, and I'm regretting having not done that because my apples, they're starting to bud. I'm about to hit bud burst here. Same thing with the grapes. Everything is just popping out.
Yeah.
So I wasn't taking care of that, but that's fine. It looks like we're coming up on break time, and the sports will be coming up. So why don't we take a break?
Okay.
And then when we come back, we've got a gardening calendar to talk about.
Yes, we do.
I can go poke around out there. We're right next to the buffet. Did you notice that?
Oh, and is that beautiful? That's a breakfast buffet. Wait till you see the lunch buffet
Wait, it
and
changes?
the desserts. Oh my goodness, it's going to change off and on all day today. There is so much food here, and almost all of the cookies and baked goods are all done by the ladies of the YMCGA,
No, right,
and
not
all
store-bought.
contributed.
Yep. Okay. So right now you are listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM.
I love it. Panic time.
You guys are great.
One person sitting at the table.
So we're recording video, though, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I did.
And we're back. You're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM. This is your Yamhill County Master Gardener radio show dealing with all things gardening. Here in Yamhill County, we're coming to you live at the Spring Into Gardening event, which is at the McMinnville Community Center. Everybody's broken off into their little seminars right now, and I got to peek. Heather Stoven's talking about hydrangeas,
Right.
and the more popular ones that are out there. That was actually kind of... It's an interesting topic that if you would have asked me 10 years ago, do you find hydrangeas interesting? I'd be like, no. But now, it is a kind of an interesting thing. She's about to delve into the tinting of the hydrangeas, how you can make them blue, pink.
Yeah, years ago, because there was always the homebody myth type of thing back in the country and whatnot. My grandma used to put horseshoes in the ground underneath of her hydrangea plants. And I was talking to my grandkids about that one time, and they said, "Is that the same stuff they make railroad spikes out of?" Those kids took a box, walked along the railroad tracks that were near their home, and brought me this box full of railroad spikes. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so wait, the horseshoes, does
The
that work? Because
iron.
it's the aluminum that changes the color.
Yeah, but I'd
Aluminum.
heard that iron will change it also. My grandma's they go from white to pink to blue to purple kind of thing, and she says it definitely changes the color.
Interesting. I can kind of... yeah, okay, I'll
I'll try it.
I just put in a horseshoe pit, so I've got plenty of horseshoes.
Oh, there you go.
So I would be willing to try that with my hydrangeas that I do also have. So
There you go.
thanks for that. We've got the calendar here, the OSU gardening calendar, which is available. You go to extension.oregonstate.edu/Yamhill, and right there is a link to the monthly planning calendar. And so let's just delve right into it. First, when we talk about planning, this is really the time to get some of that planning done. You plan the vegetable garden carefully for spring, summer, and fall, and make sure you pick the vegetables that can be eaten fresh or preserved. So
Right.
now's the planning of the vegetables, because they might be in the greenhouse already, right? No?
They may be, and then there may be the ones that are in a cold frame out there, so that you've got your lettuces and spinach and stuff started, which like the cooler weather and don't need as much sun because they don't blossom per se. So,
But you've got the catalog, and
Oh,
you've
yeah.
got to figure out which vegetables, and you want to make sure you pick the ones that are staggering out throughout the season, not just picking everything that goes in the fall. Because you will be disappointed. You will just be looking at things growing all summer instead of eating them.
you bet. And getting some of the early crops in, you can enjoy something fresh at different times all through the year. Or all through the seasons, I guess would be. Wintertime doesn't work too well for that.
Well, we get the cold crops,
But
you're right. No,
yeah,
you're right.
but that's a really good way to do it, and that way you have enough for yourself, and if some left over, some to share with neighbors or something. But yeah, getting that timing down is pretty important. That's why a lot of people use that calendar that you talked about before.
Oh, I know. It's helpful. It really is. Especially, okay, so one of the other things is, if you lack in-ground gardening space, plan an outdoor container garden. And that's actually one of the topics that we're going to bring Celeste on later in the show here today. And we're going to talk about container gardening, because people with limited space, maybe you live in an apartment, you've got that balcony, but you still want to grow something. We're going to talk about some container gardening. Another tip for maybe you should use a soil thermometer. It'll help you know when to plant vegetables.
Yeah, exactly. It's all things living will react to different temperatures. Fish in the water, plants in the ground.
Well,
And
some of
it
these,
works. It's
and
just
some of
part
these
of
seeds
nature.
won't germinate until the soil is a certain temperature. Like I know corn, temperature in the soil's got to be about 70 degrees.
As temperature,
consistently.
a combination of temperature, soil amending, composting, fertilizing, whatever that you're doing in that direction, and the amount of water that they're getting.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like people. They need to eat, they need a good place to live, and they need moisture.
They need warmth.
You know what's amazing?
What?
Absolutely amazing. My husband lived for 46 years on the desert, and one of his friends, or a couple of his friends who live down there, have just been sending him photographs that they took out on the desert, and oh my word, it is alive with flowers because they've gotten the rain that we didn't.
Yeah. And you know what? Ray is down in Arizona right now,
Yes.
but I haven't had an update for him in a week.
I certainly hope
So
he's taking some pictures for us.
I hope he's taking care, because sometimes I get concerned if I haven't heard from Ray for more than a week.
Maybe that just means he's having a whole lot of fun. He has
Right. He slipped down
Yes.
to Tijuana or something
There you
like
go.
that.
There you go.
Okay, so
Okay,
back to the calendar. So some cool season crops that we often talk about, and they can be they can be planted when the soil is consistently 40 degrees, so cold.
Yes.
Cold soil.
Yes.
You've got your onions. I've planted my onions, kale,
Mhm.
lettuce, and spinach. I've planted lettuce and spinach. And
I did the
onions.
lettuce and spinach. I didn't do kale,
Yeah.
and we don't use very many onions at our house, just by choice. But lots of lettuce, lots of spinach, and radishes and things like that will all go real well right
Yeah, the
now.
onions I went ahead and I planted about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, and that was really important because I was hoping to get all of these rains in so that they would be growing lots. I haven't been watering them, which is really bad because once you put these onions in the ground, you really want to make sure that the soil stays a consistent moisture. But I haven't been doing that, and the rains haven't been helping me at all. So my onions, I think, they're going to be a failure here towards the end of August.
Oh, what kind of onions do you plant?
I planted just yellow, just
Okay.
yellow, just plain
Okay.
old yellow. So
I
we'll
always
see.
look forward to the fall when the ones over in Eastern Washington come over, and they're sweet and they're
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, but you don't plant them yourself.
Nope.
All right.
Nope.
Okay, so let's get to some maintenance and cleaning up as part of this winter garden, the March garden. You've got lawn mowing. Have you mowed lawns? Have you been there? Because
Personally,
I had
no.
my
My
brother-
husband takes care of that.
I had my brother come by and he mowed my lawn, and within a week it was right back up.
And it's thicker.
Yes.
It's thicker and greener and healthier. If you keep it at a consistent level, if you let it get too long, then it gets the bottom of the grass gets real thick and woody,
Hmm.
and like a more mature plant would. And then when you cut it, it kind of looks icky for a few
It's
days.
straw.
But if you can just go out once in a while and trim the top of it off, it's nice and even. It's just beautiful. It
Because
gets so
what you're
thick
going to
and
be
lush.
doing is when you're trimming it when it's small, you're cutting off the top green part, and then when you wait until it's tall, you've got that long white part, and then that's what
Exactly.
you're exposed and you're cutting.
Keeping that level down like that gives you more of the new growth near the bottom of the plant.
Yep.
And that's what makes it nice and soft and well worth being able to go out and take your book and stretch out on a towel or something if you want to.
And you'll be able to.
Yeah.
That would be nice. So some quick tips for lawn mowing. You want to set the blade at 3/4 to an inch for the bent grass, and then at 1.5 to 2.5 for the bluegrass, fine fescues, and ryegrasses, so the taller, thick ones. And then you want to compost your grass clippings and your yard waste. Compost everything apparently that dies, but for me, I leave that in the grass there. The
Basically,
clippings.
we kind of mulch it. My husband, there's a setting for mulching on the
Exactly.
lawnmower, so he'll do that, and then it just goes back down there and refeeds itself, which
Mhm.
is a really good thing. So until it goes crazy in the warm weather and there's too much of it,
Right.
because
Yeah.
then if you leave too much in there, then you end up with all that thick brown thatch at the bottom of it when it doesn't have time to decompose.
Right.
Then he gathers it out. That needs to be going into the compost. So
Because that's one of the benefits that we have of being here is that when it rains, things mold, things decompose at a much faster rate. But when we're not getting these rains, it's not,
yeah.
it's not decomposing
Yeah.
the same way. But you're absolutely right. Be careful of the thatch because once that gets thick, you're dealing with a whole bunch of other problems, and the grass doesn't look as nice. And then you're walking
It
on
doesn't.
spongy thatch.
Exactly. We've got a neighbor who never either removes or anything all year long with the grass clippings, and his grass is so thick from all of the cuttings that don't have time to decompose. So then he ends up having to go and thatch it to pull it out and makes a major work job of it. But that's his choice to do it that way.
Right. Just follow the directions.
There you go.
Extension.
There you go. But yeah,
State
keeping those
.edu.
heights right is really good because remembering that the heights that they'd enjoy being at and look their best at.
Yep.
Kind of like when you go get a haircut.
Did you notice? It
Oh,
looks
yes,
good.
I
Thanks.
did.
Oh.
I noticed that, and I noticed this.
Yeah, like my beard coming every once in a while and going.
There
most
you go.
often. Once it starts getting scratchy, then it's time to shave it off. But so we've got compost also that's been nice and composty all over. This is the time to spread it over your garden and landscape. Prune your gooseberries, currants, and fertilize with manure. Complete fertilizer is important. We were actually talking about gooseberries. I say jostaberries, but it's a combination of a gooseberry and a currant. And yeah, I've got to put the fertilizer over it. I don't know if I would be comfortable pruning them right now because they're budding. And I think it's a little late for mine. Because once I see buds, it's like,
I'm killing something that
yeah,
wants to grow.
yeah, I'm not ready. I mean,
Yeah.
you're too late. But yeah, it's now's the time to prune most of those gooseberries, fertilize the evergreen shrubs and trees, and I think that's something that easily gets forgotten, is because it's a shrub and it seems to be taking care of itself, but you got to throw some sort of compost on it every once in a while.
You do. They need care just as much as a younger plant does, and sometimes more, because when they get older, their parts get old, and just like ours do.
Right.
and,
They're
and-
further out apart,
yeah,
and then they're not. They don't
yeah.
have as much hair, let's say,
Well, that
in
happened
the
over at
form
the
of
Master
leaves.
Gardener office, and the whole front of it. We were so busy doing other things for other people that we weren't taking care of ourselves. And so our new class took it on as a project, and oh my goodness, it looks so much better.
So
They've
much
been
better.
out pruning, cutting back, cleaning up and everything, and it's going to be all fresh and new instead of a tangled mess.
Yeah, and shrubs, some shrubs,
They
they've
need
got a
it.
lifespan also. So I mean, there's no
Yes,
need
they
to keep
do.
that 40-year-old thing alive necessarily if it's all stringy looking.
You bet.
Ooh, this is where we're coming into. I think that I've seen rhododendrons opening up.
Oh, yeah.
You have to.
Yes, the azaleas are out there.
And the azaleas
And
too.
now the rhodies are coming in right behind the azaleas.
Mhm.
So it's just, that's where the first ones that we usually see are the pinks and purples.
Oh.
And then later we get the reds and the whites and so on.
Because I
But,
was
oh my
driving,
goodness,
I was
gorgeous.
driving past a house, and I drive quickly, I guess, because I drove and I thought I saw something. I thought I saw some flowers on there, and but mine haven't come up. But this is the time that you want to fertilize the rhodies
Yep.
and the camellias and the azaleas. Camellia Festival coming up in Newburgh. That's going to be fun. But you want to use an acid type fertilizer.
Yes, yes. And the one that makes me sad right now is the camellias, because I just love camellias, and it's been so glorious. They've been blooming like crazy, but now they're starting to get those little brown edges on them, and they're falling off. And you go, oh, I'm not
that's
ready
the
for you."
rhodie time. Because
Yeah.
the rhododendrons, when I first moved here, I'm like, yeah, rhodies, I guess they look kind of great, but they're only there for 3 days, maybe a week, and then they start turning brown. And so, I don't know. This is the time to see everything coming up and bloom, but they'll die. I guess.
It'll be good.
It'll be good. So if they're established and healthy, that being the rhodies and the camellias, then their nutrient needs should be minimal.
Yes.
But you're going to want to prune your spring flowering shrubs after the blossoms fade.
Yeah, if you do that, then you don't have as much of that nasty rotting debris left over from them, because when they drop their blossoms, they're not as attractive. But if you clean them up and nip those extra pieces off that have started to fade, then everything else looks fresher.
It looks fresher,
And it's healthier for the plant.
It's healthier because you're saying, okay, that part's not there anymore. Don't
Right.
don't,
Don't
try
support
and
it.
take care of it. You know it's gone. We know it's gone.
Absolutely.
So then what else we got? We've got it's fertilize the caneberries. That was the so caneberries being raspberries. What is it? Blackberries.
Blackberries, yeah.
All of those,
Yeah.
so-
all those need to be tied up and controlled too.
Yeah.
If you don't tie them up, you don't control them, then you've got problems,
Yeah.
because you can't get to them.
Yep. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly, and that's why I one of those things that I took care of last year were my caneberries, because they get out of hand. Those blackberries, they'll start trailing 5-10 feet away from the plant that they were originally at, and it gets to be a pain. So everything is actually scooped up, wrapped
Tied 'em,
around, tied
right?
up tight, and they're standing about 4 feet tall, and just green shoots starting
That's
to
perfect.
come out.
That's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, it's when those rows get to where they are not controlled and they get too thick, they haven't been tied up, then you've got all this fruit that's in the middle that you can't even get to
Yeah.
because keeping those pruned is really important.
Yeah, there was a raspberry nursery or whatever. What's a raspberry? There was a raspberry field out on the Amity-Dayton Highway, and it had been there for as long as I can remember. And I'd always watched them to see when they were pruning and trimming and all of that. And last year they were cutting everything a little down to the ground. I'm like, oh, well, I guess this is the year that you cut down everything to the ground. And then just a couple of weeks ago, I drove by and the field is gone. It's empty. Everything has been pulled out,
Oh.
and there are no more raspberries there. So I've got to find out what happened, because this was like acres of raspberries that are
I
no
wonder
longer there.
if they're going to plant something else, or
Yeah.
if they're going to renew the field by putting in fresh plants. A lot of times, like with
And that's what I was thinking.
old trees and bushes and things,
The renewal, yes.
they reach a life where they can no longer produce.
Right.
And I know that one of our master gardeners has hazelnut trees. And so Gail and her husband have a system where every 5 years they take out one area and put new trees in there.
Yep.
So there's a constant rotation of that crop. And berries may very well be in the same.
And that was the
Yeah.
thought there. I'm like, okay, well, I guess they're going to be replanting them, but the amount of effort that they took to prune everything
Oh.
down and then do that, and then all of a sudden it was just all gone.
Yeah.
Or maybe you sell the field and
Well,
somebody
maybe
doesn't
they
want to have
wanted the debris
raspberries.
gone before they cultivated the field,
Yep.
so that there wasn't as much to deal with mixed
Yep.
with the dirt.
Yep. So it is 9:35 right now. Why don't I send you away to go attend a class?
Okay.
And then we'll bring Celeste in here, and we'll talk about some container gardening.
That's very good. I think we're going to bring in, we have here at the place we have at our event, we have the Newburgh High School plant sale. The kids are down here with the plants that they've been nursing up there at the school and everything for weeks and weeks, selling some, and we're going to probably be talking with one of the students.
Oh, well, that sounds
Okay,
great.
be great,
So
huh?
we'll be doing that when we
All
come
right.
back. Right now, you're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC, 1260 AM, and currently not streaming on Facebook, but you can catch the repeat of the video on YouTube.com.
We're off? Okay. Yes.
Yeah, with hearing, you can't hear us. Oh, but the other one is. And we're back. You're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM and streaming KLYC.us. We are coming to you live from the Spring Into Gardening seminars here in the McMinnville Community Center, and we've got gym class letting it out.
Yes, we do. It's a community center.
It's a community center, absolutely, and we've got Celeste here, and she came in to talk to us a little bit about the container gardening, but I wanted to ask you real quick, because you came to attend the Spring Into Gardening seminar too.
I did.
What class are you looking forward to? What kind of class piques your interest?
Actually, there's two of them that I was really interested in. The first one is about vegetable breeding.
Oh.
So I do regular vegetable gardens, but I thought it was interesting. It would have been interesting to listen to the vegetable breeding parts, just to understand how to make different kinds. Like you and I have seen those cauliflower broccoli combinations, or the purple cauliflowers. I just think, yes, exactly. So I think it's kind of neat to play with some of that. Also, the growing vegetables in containers is a big one to me, as you know.
Uh-huh.
So I'm a big kale fan, and kale's one of the few things that it's kind of hard to kill, although I can. I'm a master gardener, so I'm always learning and always practicing, and kale's one of my big ones. So I want to learn how to use it.
Kale salad is on your menu pretty much every day, if possible. Kale. But again, kale is like one of those things that
very
that is
hardy,
very easy.
It's
to grow.
beautiful too if you do different variations. We've used them as centerpieces for some of our dinner gatherings.
They have
and things
ornamental
like that.
kale that
Absolutely.
is very pretty to look at, but apparently not very tasty. So whereas it goes from purples to greens to yellows to whatever, not very palatable. Though,
No, but I
because it's
think
really
even the
strong.
regular, I think it's called Italian kale, really has a pretty color to it. So I think all kales are really pretty. Also lettuces. So one of the ideas that you taught me in container gardens is to have we called it the salad bowl. So we have a big a wine barrel that's cut in half, and every year we plant salad or lettuce around the outside of it, and then we kind of do a ring of different kinds of food. So I'm really excited to hear more about that.
Yep.
So those are two big ones.
So those are the topics that are at the seminar here.
That's correct.
And so why don't we move into the topic that we have to talk about, which is the container gardening, because that's something that we've been looking at, and we have many containers.
We do.
Not just pots, but big wine barrels, and that's what we did last year. We did a spring garden mix.
Yes.
Is what it's actually called, and it has the arugula and the little lettuces and dandelions and stuff like that.
That's correct. And then we put carrots in the middle because it's a very large wine barrel. So it was kind of fun to watch it. My big goal this year is to try to have things that sprout every week. And so, as you're aware, we usually have 1 or 2 really big nights of our vegetable garden a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to have a few weeks of our vegetable garden being able to go out. And we put a few things in, like tomatoes. We have those all year round, almost.
Well, and that's the thing is when we go to plant the stuff, is we plant it all at once. And what we need to learn from that, and what we will be doing this year, is you plant a little bit now, wait a couple of days, a week, and then plant more, and then wait another week, and then plant more, and then so that way it's staggered it out. Whereas the tomatoes are constantly growing, and so
Correct.
you can always be picking stuff for that. But once
Correct.
lettuce is up,
Same with, we have a tendency to do that with all of our gardening. So our cucumbers all go in at once. And so we're starting to do that on a weekly basis. And containers are no different there. The big difference with container gardens, though, is you have to take a lot more thought process to make sure you keep up your dirt correct, to make sure that the soil has what it needs for your plants, because the natural environment isn't replenishing them. Also, even though it does rain, obviously, on your container gardens, you still have to take a lot of attention to water them, because rain can seep out very quickly. So it's not like a regular garden where you can kind of let it go for a few days. You need, especially in the summer, to really watch your container gardens.
Yeah, the container garden's going to dry out faster. It's not in the soil, so it's not retaining the moisture like it should. So there are some soil types out there that claim to be moisture soils, and but but the science apparently isn't really supporting that fact.
Yep.
While the soil may say moisture retaining, it doesn't necessarily mean that as a fact. So you want to make some amendments to the soil. So let's say you want a third of it, the soil, a third peat moss, and then a third vermiculite or perlite or sand.
That's correct. And I think if you go down to our friends at Recology, they can help you to do that mix for you. And if you tell them what you're looking for, they're there to assist you in that.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because at Recology they've actually got like 4 different kinds of soil to choose from, and
That's
it
correct.
basically is a variation of you've got soil and compost, and then they throw in some peat moss, and then they throw in some perlite. So you're absolutely right. Recology is a really great source for getting those soils, and again in the container it's going to dry out, so
Yep.
water is the other important part.
And the nice thing about container gardens, though, and the reason you'll find that the shows I'm on are usually small little instances, because I like to try things and then try something else.
You like to try things and fail.
Yes,
and then learn from them.
and so one of the things that we do a lot is try some of those different soils, and I think that our tests have proven out very much what we read in our newspapers about gardening, which is a lot of the soils, it's what you do to the soil, not what they're giving you in the soil. So if you go on to, you guys know from watching the other shows that Pinterest is one of my favorite things. There's a lot of ways to water your container garden in different ways that are pretty neat, so you can look at some things. A couple of them that I was showing you before the show, you can use PVC pipe and actually plant it into some of your container gardens to make it easier. Also, water bottles with a bunch of holes in it, those can be made to make it easier to make sure that you're getting, because one of the big things, and I'm not saying this, is to get water all the way down to the bottom. When you water a container garden, you don't want just the wet to be top. You actually really want that water to flow out, which is another key piece, which is there have to be holes at the bottom of your container garden, or else you'll get molds and it'll actually kill the plant.
Yeah, and that's one of the really important things, is you have to make sure that there are holes on the bottom of the container. So if you're recycling that old pail bucket,
Yep.
or anything that doesn't have holes down there at the bottom, you're gonna have to take the drill to it
Yep.
and make those holes, because you don't want stagnant water in there, and you want it to actually flow through. And get
Super
all the way
easy,
through.
yep. And if you don't have a drill, I've done it with a hammer and nails really quickly. Most of those are pretty thin. Clay pots, you do have to be careful, that'll crack. I also experiment in that way.
You took a hammer to a clay pot?
I did.
Yeah.
That's another thing, that when you're choosing your container garden, you really have to pick what kind of container. Clay pots will dry out a lot faster than your other pots, and so if you're not a good waterer, that's probably not the best plant pot to start with.
That's a good point.
A lot of people have started using those plastic tubs as container gardens, and just realize that plastic, if you put it in direct heat, is going to keep in the heat a lot more, and so a lot of people complain about their gardens cooking. Basically, the root ball cooks in that if you're in direct sun.
That's actually a really good point, because those big plastic tubs, that people use for storage, put your Christmas stuff in.
Correct.
You set those out in direct sunlight, and within a year they're brittle and they break and they crack, and the plastic is no good. So you also don't want to sit those in the direct sunlight if you plan on keeping them long. If it's just a temporary fix, I get it.
Correct.
But just know that the sun is going to destroy those.
Right, and especially you always want to watch plastics breaking down for your vegetable gardens too. So make sure you check to make sure what kind of plastics are being made of those, because that is a concern. Also, if you use old metal containers, you just want to check out what's in it if you're going to eat what's in your vegetable garden that's in one of these containers. You don't want to use an old metal container that's
An old
leaching.
oil drum.
Right, correct.
Yeah,
with oil in it.
Right. Don't use
No.
that one.
Or
But-
something that used to hold poisons. Yeah, not a good idea.
But we can name a couple of containers. So you
Absolutely.
mentioned the
clay
clay
pots.
and the terracotta, because there's a difference between clay pots and terracotta. Clay pots are mostly inexpensive, but they dry out quickly, as you said.
They do.
And terracotta is more costly than clay, but typically lasts longer and dry out more slowly.
That's correct. And again, you can go to any of your big garden stores and you can see all these different kinds. A lot of the clay pots, they make into really neat designs, and they can stack them in different waterfall ways. So those are kind of fun to play with, and like we said, they're inexpensive. But on the other side, we just said that they break easily, and they also dry out very quickly. As we go down, wood containers are another thing that people use a lot. I see a lot of larger trees in wood containers, and that's great, but it will ultimately rot. And so, just be ready to... We have some out in our garden, actually.
Well, the wine barrels, that's wood. So that's what we've got there. But the most resistant woods, if you're going to use wood for your containers, are the cedars and the redwoods.
Yep.
And those are basically the same kinds of woods that you would use for your raised beds.
Correct.
And that is an understanding the wood's going to rot. But if you do it right and if you use the right kind of wood, it should last for years.
Correct.
So
Also, if you're lining them with different things, a lot of people, that's one thing, is if you don't like the look of plastic, but you want the durability of plastic, a lot of people have secrets where they put their plastic pots inside something that looks really nice. So maybe you've planted or you've painted a clay pot and made it look really neat with your kids' handprints on the outside, but you find it just isn't working, then put a plastic pot right inside of it, and then it's dual purpose, so that works really well. Whiskey barrels. We already talked about wine barrels, so we're big about wine over in this area.
We've got more wine barrels than whiskey barrels.
That's true. And then I'm always about using things from around your house. So there are so many unique containers that you can use. You can use cans for some plants or flowers. It has a really nice rustic look. You can use old wheelbarrows. I see a lot of that. Bathtubs. I see so many bathtubs in pretty gardens.
It's toilets.
I don't know that I agree with that one, but
you don't,
yes,
I
I
don't
have
agree
seen
with
that.
bathtubs either. But if I get it, if you have an old bathtub and you want to reduce, reuse, recycle, but for me that it belongs in
The kitchen
in
sink.
bathroom.
I have seen some kitchen sinks out there.
Yes, the one that I have is our daughter grows out of boots, the rain boots, very
Yes.
quickly, and so I've kept rain boots around because I want to put something in a rain boot in the garden.
Absolutely.
So those are one of the things. But again, make sure they always have drain holes. So the boots aren't a problem. That's the whole reason she got new boots is because they had holes in them.
Right.
So draining is not a problem there. But so container sizes go by the top diameter, so the opening. So if you've got a 12-inch pot, it's because the top pot is 12 inches, not necessarily that the pot itself is 12 inches high.
Yes, this is where I get confused all the time, and oftentimes I'll find a really pretty container, and as I try to put my tree or whatever in it, you remind me that it's not the right fit, and that's a really big deal. And sometimes I fight with you on that and then watch my plant die because
Yeah.
it doesn't have enough soil. But
Yeah.
picking out the right size is important.
Yeah, so as a guideline, 12-inch containers work well for flowering annuals and perennials, and anything smaller is just going to dry out too quickly. So you're looking for about a good foot of an opening. Larger pots are a good choice for shrubs and small trees.
Yep.
And then you've got the half barrel, which is a good for a small-scale garden, which we talked about with the ornamentals and edible plants. And that's also what you would use for, let's say, a dwarf maple or something like that.
Yeah, and flower boxes are also container gardens, and so I've seen a lot of people using those for herb gardens now outside of kitchen windows and things like that. So there's lots of options out there, and you can go as expensive as you'd like or as inexpensive, really.
Right.
We learn lessons all the time. We did a lot of things from the dollar store when we first started our garden, and a lot of those things broke down really quickly, so we tend to start a new idea in a cheaper item, and then as we define what we want to do longer term, we use more lasting products.
Exactly. One of the keys is to never use garden soil in containers.
That's true.
And reasons being, there are many reasons, but it's a fine texture which stops the adequate draining. It's dirt.
Correct.
So it doesn't have the perlite in it. It doesn't have the peat moss in it. It's just, especially here with the clay soil that we have,
Right.
it's just you're gonna end up with a clay ball, and there's no water going down. There's
Right,
no
even if
roots
the
coming.
hole is at the bottom of the container like you're supposed to, the clay blocks it. That happened a lot to us at the beginning before we learned that lesson.
Yep. So you want to make sure that you're using potting soil.
Also
of some
switch
kind.
it out
You can
every
ma-
year.
Yeah. And what I do, and they're not going to say that you should be able to do this, but I take a little bit of my gardening soil and I throw it in there. But the reason you don't want to do that is because you've got insects and bugs and mites and all of these things in that soil, garden soil, that you're going to then have in your container garden. But
Correct.
a lot of my container gardens are outside in the garden.
Correct.
So
They're going to get in there anyway, right?
Get in there.
We try not to mix our outside and indoor
Right.
plants a lot. Even when we bring our plants inside, those plants are separated from the other indoor plants because we don't want indoor bugs, or
Definitely.
outdoor bugs coming in.
And don't follow the ill-advised practice of adding a layer of coarse stuff on the bottom of the container for drainage. And this is one of my big peeves because I learned long ago that you're not supposed to put, let's say, the 3/4-inch rocks down at the bottom of the containers. And that's what you were told is if you put that stuff down there, then the water can fall through. But really what happens is the dirt fills in those cracks and then no water goes through.
And that is so true, and I actually fall for that every once in a while. I
No,
think
you
it's a
tell
good
me.
idea.
You keep telling me, like, okay, let's go ahead and put the rock down at the bottom, and it's like, do you not remember the past 10 years of me telling you we don't do that?
Yes.
So we will go ahead and what else is there? We've got garden soil may bring in the disease, and then what else? We talked about
we have to
fertilizer.
fertilizer. So one of the things to think about is that over time, if you're growing a lot out of the dirt, it's going to miss the nutrients in it. And so you have to add fertilizer on a regular basis. There's a lot of ways that you can water. Like we were saying before, they have little tips and tricks. So they have little devices that you can put in container gardens to help you remember to water or to indicate when there's not enough water, those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. You also want to make sure that we were talking about this earlier. Let's say you did a whole bunch of container gardens last year. You don't want to just plant in the same container garden. You want to pull all that dirt out, mix it around, use fresh dirt, put in some fertilizer in there. Again, make sure that your mix is correct, and then replant. Just like rotating plants, so we talk about the strawberries in your garden and how you have to move those around. The same thing, you don't want to use the same dirt in a container for the strawberries and that type of thing. A couple plants that I would really encourage people to look at for container gardening that are kind of neat are your root plants. So there's some really interesting ways to grow potatoes in container gardens, and so that you can harvest them the whole time. And also carrots are a new really big thing, so that you can see them below the surface for little kids to watch root vegetables grow. It's a lot of fun. And so look for those kits in your home improvement stores too. And then what I usually do is I look at the kit and then I go and make whatever it is at home, because
Well, the potato one is pretty interesting if we're talking about the same one, because you can do potato stacking. So you start it in a container, and then you have to put another container above that and put soil in it, and it's slowly growing up. And so yeah, I agree that potato one is pretty interesting. But a really important thing is when we get those warm days, you do want to avoid the cooking of the root ball.
correct.
So you want to make sure that you pick the right place for it. You don't want it all necessarily in the direct sunlight. You're only, for a lot of things, looking for about 5 hours of direct sunlight, and then the rest of it can be a little bit of shade, a little bit of
Right, and realize that if you have
indirect.
a giant container, you're not going to be able to move it around. So you have to think about it just like when you plant your garden. If you can't move it, you need to make sure it can get shade, or that you're going to be able to move something in front of it to give it shade.
Right, like those half barrels. Those half barrels are really pretty to look at, but once you fill them up with soil, they're not
Yes.
going anywhere.
And it doesn't matter what kind of little wheels you put underneath them, it doesn't help in the garden. I have tried, it just breaks. So,
That's true, those wheels are not sturdy at all.
nope.
So that is, and make sure you just trim the deadheads and the flowers as they become spent.
Absolutely. And then on the potato thing really quickly, there are even these giant barrels now where you can open them on the side and pull out potatoes all year round. I think that's one of them that I'm really going to try to do this next year. Potatoes are something I like to grow in the garden anyway. They're super easy.
Yep.
So.
Well, thanks for that. We're going to take a break real quick. When we come back, we're going to go into overtime, and we're going to talk to a student from Newburgh High School, because they've got the greenhouse plant sale coming up in May for their school.
Very
And,
exciting. They can put different plants in containers. You
yeah,
can
and
figure out
actually
what's
we
going to
have-
be for sale.
We actually have master gardeners working with the Newburgh High School greenhouse. So and right now they've got plants on sale here at the Spring Into Gardening seminars here at the community center. So we're going to talk to him real quick and see what's going on there in Newburgh. Right now you're listening to The Root of It right here on KOYC 1260 AM. And we are back. You are listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC 1260 AM. Going a little bit into the overtime here. It's 10:02. But we grabbed somebody that is actually here at the Spring Into Gardening seminar, and he's got a booth out here. He's with the Newburgh High School greenhouse, and his name is Paul Myers. Hi, Paul.
Hi.
You're a student over there at Newburgh High School then?
That's right, I'm a junior.
That is awesome. And we've got you out there, and you're sitting there with a whole table full of plants that you're selling?
That is correct, yeah.
And all of these plants actually came from the greenhouse. Where you actually, we've got this display behind us, so we've got a whole bunch of pictures of the greenhouse itself. And I've never actually been out there, but I've read the articles. Cindy Kinnaman, she sends me updates every month, so it's pretty interesting, and it's nice to talk to somebody. So can you tell me, as a student out there, what's a class like? What do you do during the average class?
Well, first semester it's general horticulture, which is mainly the basics of plant structure and the propagation. And then second semester it's ornamental, where we learn about the basics of house plants and fruit trees and that. For most of the week we do a lot of notes and a lot of studying, and then Fridays and Thursdays we're out in the greenhouse actually planting all the plants you saw out there, seeding and transplanting and uppotting.
So what makes you interested in taking that greenhouse class?
Well, it's my long-term goal to become an agricultural geneticist.
Wow.
And this has given me valuable work experience because all the proceeds from our plant sale that we're doing in May ends up going back to the greenhouse, allowing us to hire students over the summer.
Nice.
And I was hired over the summer.
So
Great job.
So you're paying for yourself by working at these booths. That's incredible. So as far as the geneticists go, because here at the seminars, one of the things we have is vegetable breeding.
That's actually the one I'm going to next.
And so you're going to go to that, but that's kind of like what you're interested in gearing towards, is creating new plants or
breeding superior plants and animals without the use of GMO technology.
Wow. So so you've attended seminars. I'm assuming you've read on it, and you're like,
Right.
no, this is where I'm going. You got a school in mind that you're.
I'm probably going to go to OSU and go for my master's in their Master of Agriculture program.
Nice. Good luck. You know that the Yamhill County Master Gardeners do offer scholarship for someone going into a study like that, so make sure you apply for that. Let's see. The Newburgh High School greenhouse plant sale is in May.
Every Friday and
it's going to be
Saturday.
every Friday and Saturday?
Every Friday and Saturday from 9 to 5.
So we have our Yamhill County Master Gardener plant sale, and it is at the end of April. It's just one day, but you guys are there weekday, week?
Every week and weekend, and I'll probably be there every day.
And so the greenhouse is located 99W in Elliott, and there's also going to be a Master Gardener's Clinic table, and all of the support goes towards the horticulture program there at the Newburgh High School. And for information on that, they're also on Facebook /NHS Greenhouse. That's pretty interesting. So let's talk about a few of these pictures. When you talk about planting these flats, when did you start planting like these little flats out there?
A lot of those were the lupins we did over the summer. Actually, they're native lupin that are endangered.
Oh.
And so we did a lot of that. We stratified them for over the summer, and then we just started planting them recently. And they've already started germinating. We have one of the highest germination rates for the endangered lupin in the state.
Because you have a really nice greenhouse.
We have a nice greenhouse and a lot of well-trained students who know how to handle it.
Nice. So then you plant these lupins, and then you go out into the field and plant them.
Then they are planted, correct, in the natural environment in order to feed a certain type of butterfly that is endangered.
It's not the monarch butterfly, is it? Because the monarch butterfly is endangered, but we're planting milkweed for that.
No, it is not the monarch.
Okay, but so wow, that is really interesting for me too. So during the week, you're taking notes and listening to lectures, and then you're getting into the greenhouse. You have a garden of yourself? Your own?
I do. I have 5 acres up at my grandma's house that I'm converting into a very large hanging garden.
A hanging garden. What intrigues you about the hanging?
Well, it's a lot of
because you got to do more watering with hangings.
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Because we have a gravity-fed system, so by running it through just the nice little drip lines, it goes all on its own, and it's well water, so I don't have to really pump it or anything.
So it's just constantly coming up and
pretty much
going over there.
And then the reason why it's all clay up there, it's all not gray clay, which is great. It's just almost impossible to grow anything other than blackberries there.
Right. As long as you amend that with a whole bunch of compost, we've got the best clay soil in the whole world. It's full of chock full of nutrients, but
Yeah,
you
but I can't
roots don't
afford the
get in
compost.
there. You can't afford the compost. Well, that's when you just start breaking stuff down and making
Mhm.
your own compost. Well, that sounds really exciting. I'm gonna cough here. Well, it's really exciting having you come in. Like I said, these plant sales are going to be going on at the Newburgh High School down there on 99W and Elliott in Newburgh, and that's going to be every weekend in May, Fridays and Saturdays. Incredible.
That's right.
Paul, thanks for coming in. Thanks for talking to us. You guys have a great program. But for right now, you've been listening to The Root of It. We're going to go ahead and sign off. If you missed any of this, you can catch the reruns there on youtube.com. Just search To The Root of It, KLYC. We will be back in the studio next week with more and various topics. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to go and attend a few seminars and learn a few more things, and hopefully come back next week with some knowledge. You're listening to The Root of It right here on KLYC, 1260 AM.